Well, everyone, voiceover is the hot subject because there are so many opportunities, not only through traditional voiceover agents, but on your breakdowns now. So Nick Omana and I teach together, and I wanted to bring Nick on because he is a very successful voiceover actor, and really talk about what makes a good voiceover read. And Jamie is on. Jamie works with me, and she's also a voiceover actor, and she'll be manning your questions. So Nick has been in the business for a long time. I know when I get a breakdown from the clients, because of all my years of doing this, I rewrite the breakdown, I send it out to the agents, and then Nick, who is representative now of all of you who are listening to us, gets the breakdown. And he's been doing this for a long time, so somehow he knows how to read. I feel I know how to write a breakdown, and then I cross my fingers and I say, oh, I hope I'm going to get good reads in. So Nick, share with us, when you get a breakdown, how do you approach it to give your good voiceover reads?
Well, you're right. I have been doing this for a long time, which is a very kind way of saying I'm old. But but really, it's the basic process every single time you get a script. You have to break it down. You have to take a moment and really understand what's being said, and also how the client wants it said. And so you take your time. Part of the problem we're up against these days is a lot of quick turnaround things. So you don't get a chance to live with the script as much as you might like. But it's still the same process. You just have to learn to act on a dime. And really, the best read is one that is completely you, because you're going to bring something to it that nobody else can, and that is you. And also, take the time to get a complete understanding of the script, because if there's an opportunity to do an ad lib, which I always suggest if you can, come up with a second read, always, 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 unless they're very specific and say one read only, but come up with a second read so that you've just doubled your chances of booking, but also you give them a chance to see your versatility and your range. And in that second script, if something kind of shouts out at you for an ad lib that just really kind of completes the thought or the sentence or and it can't be long because you don't want to rewrite the spot, but something that just kind of gives a nice little button. Oftentimes it's something that'll put a smile on somebody's face. Is it a knee slapper? Probably not, but at least it gives them something nice to work off of. So that's really the process I go through.
I love that you say to make it your own, because when I'm listening to all the reads that come back, to sort them out and decide who I'm going to send to the clients, I am really looking for a point of view, which is another way of saying make it your own. Because really, years ago, I'm not talking about the announcers. You can make lots of money in announcering, but in the announcer reads, like that became a trend years ago. And you have to even do more now than being a non-announcer guys. And the way that, in my words, I say when I can hear your specific point of view, that makes it stand out.
Absolutely. I think the thing that most people try to do, especially in the beginning when you haven't really learned what your strengths are, you haven't really ventured out there one of the best ways to know where you're going to work is actually getting work and seeing where the preponderance of stuff falls. If you venture out there, and when I first got into the business, I was young and people would tell me, gee, you have a nice voice. And to a 26-year-old, when they say that, you hear in your head, gee, you have a nice voice. And it's like, no, at 26, I wasn't selling Dodge trucks, but I did do Toyotas. It's all a matter of getting a perspective on what it is that, how you fit into the overall scheme of things. And knowing who you are and what you are is the most important thing. As I always say, there's a reason they don't sell bologna in the soap aisle at the store. People are not looking for it there. And also, it really smells bad after 3 days.
Yeah.
But anyway, but that's the whole idea, is knowing what your brand is, knowing how to put yourself out there, and making yourself available. And also so that people, when they hear you and see you, just know part of your branding is your logo and your website and all of that stuff. And, you know, one thing I remember years ago, a woman that I did a demo for, she had a very young kid voice. It was just, she wasn't trying to, just her natural voice. And when she did her demo cover reel, or, you know, the cover artwork for her demo, she did this thing where she had herself in a tap, you know, shorts and high heels and a top hat, and very sexy kind of looking. Completely not what her voice sounds like. And so she was totally at cross purposes for how she was branding herself. She was attractive, yes, but that's not what her voice comes up as. So know what it is that you do and really focus on that. Just, you know, don't try and be everything to everybody, because you'll be nobody to everyone.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Nick and I go a lot into branding, and it's really fascinating to for someone to discover their branding and who they are. And surprises come up, and then once you know your branding, I almost think it's more important for yourself than even for a website, because once you know your branding, you just own that read. You know, you're just so attached to it, connected. That's another thing. Yeah, like how the best reads for a casting director are the reads where someone's connected. I don't know, Nick, can you put into words like how you connect, kind of give people, like, how do you connect to a message?
yeah, I think sometimes you're very fortunate and the writer writes in a manner that you normally speak. Those are the easiest ones. The ones that are difficult is where they're using terminology that is not in your normal usage. And so what I try to do oftentimes is I'll read a script down, I'll break it down, I'll go in and, you know, my process normally is I will go into the booth, lay one down, come back out, listen to it, so I have an idea of what my basic metabolic rate is with the read, and then I'll start marking my copy up at that point. Because then I go, oh no, this needs to be bracketed here, this is all one thought, this is the place to take your breath, and blah, blah, blah. And so, but sometimes it's easier for me, again, if you have the time, once I read a script, if I'm not connecting on it, I will literally just get up, walk away for about 10, 15 minutes, come back at it with a fresh mind. Because I cannot tell you how many times we get in our own way just because we box ourselves in. So it's all a matter of experimenting and finding out what works best for you. My process is my process. It works fine for me. It may not be everyone's cup of tea. I know some people, their better reads are their early reads, and then it starts to diminish as time goes on. For me, I'm mildly dyslexic. I very seldom can get through a script first time without errors. And so I have to focus and take my time, and usually my better takes are second, third take in. So that's just the process for me.
Jamie, are there any particular questions out there that anyone's asking us? We're open for questions, guys.
Yes, I haven't seen any enter the chat yet, but if anyone on here the call with us has any questions, pop them in the chat and we will address them as we go on, and I'll keep moderating those for everybody.
Terrific.
So what advice would you give people, Nick, for longevity in this field?
Well, kind of going back to the branding thing, don't be afraid to assess where you are every few years and rebrand yourself, because your voice doesn't sound the same. I certainly am not doing what I did in my 20s and 30s. I'm doing still a little bit of what I did in my 40s. But just realize nothing remains the same forever. So you need to kind of keep yourself current, know what the trends are, watch commercials, listen to radio commercials, do all of that stuff. That is what we do. Know what the competition is doing, know what the clients are buying. Spend time learning your craft. The thing that I can't emphasize enough is consistency and persistence. You have to do this every single day. My practice time is pretty much scheduled for me by my agents and my clients that book me. I'm in the booth reading probably 4.5 hours a day. So if you want to catch me and beat me in a race, you better start doing your legwork now. And it's just more than anything, it's building your confidence. When I get into the booth, I pretty much know what I want to do. And I don't question it. I don't worry about it. Am I excited? Do I get butterflies? Yeah, I still do.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And the day I don't is the day I'll stop doing this, because then I know I don't care anymore.
I actually still get butterflies when I cast.
Yeah.
And it's been many years.
And you love it. That's the reason, because it means something to you and you want to do well. And that's where the butterflies come from. But I will tell you, and I'm sure you noticed this in yourself, the way those butterflies manifest themselves now is totally different from what they did when I first started.
Yeah.
It would be distraction. It would be not knowing what to do and second guessing myself. Now it's just, no, this is great. I love doing this. It's the same feel you get as you're going up the ratcheting sound of the roller coaster when you're getting to the top. It's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh yeah. And so, that's the whole point of what we do, is if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Honest to goodness. I haven't worked in 40 years. So, but the thing that's also really important too is you have to understand the process. And I've said this many, many times when I tell people I do voiceover for a living, and that has been my main source of income for 40 years. When I tell people I do voiceover, it's not really completely honest. The real job is looking for work.
Oh.
When I'm successful at that, I get to do voiceover. That's the cold calling clients, trying to getting to meet and network with casting directors and people who are in a position to give you opportunities to work. And an agent doesn't give you work. You have to win the work. The agent just gives you the opportunity. So that's the real job. If you're not up for that, probably not the best career choice to make. But in real life, you do it every single day in some way, shape, or form. You're selling yourself. Either I can do this job or I'd like to do that, whatever the case may be. We just happen to come up against it all the time in our business.
I see someone has asked how you get started. Yeah, you need to learn a strong foundation and then build from that. Nick and I do have a core Kickstart workshop that starts, that one's not until, when is that one, Jamie?
September 13th is when that one starts.
Yeah. If those of you who are on here who already have some training, we do have an IA, Intermediate Advanced Branding and Demo Prep. I think there's only 2 spots left. And it's just amazing because during the week you do homework on the branding, and it goes back to what Nick was saying about knowing yourself. So it's not a workshop where it's you're in front of the mic, okay, bye, see you next week. You work during the week on your branding, and then I meet with you for an hour before each workshop, and we really talk about and hone your branding and expand it through visuals, add advertising visuals, and then bring it back till it's very, very honed. And Nick helps you by giving you adjectives of what your voice is, and it's just so enlightening, and really you start feeling so empowered. The voiceover community is just a great community. I know when COVID COVID started, it took about 6 days when the ad agencies started changing all the voiceovers on a lot of spots. So there was lots and lots of work. And then I had to change my way of auditioning people, and the actors were right there. I get the goosebumps even today when we're used to it, where I'll put a breakdown out and the actors are right there. That's what they're there for, waiting for their auditions, do their auditions, get it back to the agency. Agents get it back to me. And I am getting really great home self-directed reads in. So all of you out here who are with us, who are already in voiceover, you're so appreciated.
I noticed somebody asked a question about editing for auditions. And that is a very, very good question to ask. If you're already dipping your foot into the voiceover arena and you're getting an opportunity to read on things, one of the things I will tell you, do not over edit your auditions. If you can't deliver the goods when the time comes, if you book that job because you've edited it like crazy, that's going to come back to bite you really, really hard, because they will not hire you again. If you if you over edit and it sounds perfect and clean and they don't know your name, if it's not familiar to them, they go, well, we have no idea. One, don't do 20 takes. If you're not getting it in 3 or 4 or 5 takes, it's probably not your strong suit. Go ahead and submit. You might get it, but don't drive yourself crazy. And please don't send your agent 7 takes of anything. They don't have the time, nor will they take the time to listen to all of it. Our job is to come up with our best reads and submit 2, maybe 3 if it's short. But if you over edit it and it sounds broadcast perfect, they're going to wonder what went on. How many takes did this take? Did this get Frankensteined together between 15 different takes? Did they spend an hour cutting this? We aren't going to take that time in the studio. So yes, if you can do a pickup, if you make a mistake, that's fine. They don't expect you to get it in 1 take, because if they did, we wouldn't have editors. You just walk into a box, push a little red button, record, push stop, and walk out. It would be done. That's not how it works. But they also don't want you to do multiple takes, and don't get in the bad habit of doing a bunch of pickups in your audition and then editing them all together, because it makes you lazy.
Yeah, and also when I listen, and if it's your editing is so tight that there's no breath in between the sentences, and I don't mean breath where I hear breath, I mean a moment. That's where the life is in the transition, is in those moments, and it makes you feel very, very real and come alive. And once you edit those out, we might as well be using AI, and none of you guys want AI. So when you edit so tightly like that, you're just copycatting AI as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, one of the things that I remember years and years ago when synthesized music came to be very popular, everybody said, oh my gosh, live musicians are going to be out of jobs. They'll never. No. One of the things that people enjoy listening to is those perfect imperfections that come from a real person doing the job. And AI doesn't have room for that. They can't create that. That's what makes what we do so wonderful. And will we ever get replaced? I don't think so. But, I'm sure a lot of people are worried about it, and we should be. But I think there are answers to that as well. It just is going to come down to regulation of the industry and making sure that it's not one of those things that just goes off completely unchecked.
Jamie, are there any questions yet?
Yes, absolutely. So, Nick, I've had a couple people asking for recommendations. Terry, you too, if you have any particular technology. People would like to know, for getting started in voiceover, what is good way to set it up to practice or do things like that if you don't have all the equipment yet when you're just getting started? What would you recommend? And then similarly, for people who have been doing that for a while and are ready to upgrade their equipment a little bit and have already been auditioning, what would you recommend for those people transitioning to be more professional in their career as well?
Well, there are a lot of different things. You know, in the very beginning when you get started, I wouldn't go out and spend a ton of money until you're sure you want to proceed further. You can get an inexpensive USB mic, the Audio-Technica AT2020 USB Plus is a nice little mic. It plugs right into your USB port on your computer. You can use inexpensive recording programs like Audacity, which is free. I'm not a big proponent of Audacity, but that's just me. Again, everybody, I work in a different system that I have down where I can practically do it blindfolded. Audacity I don't know that much about because I've never really used it that much. But there are options out there for you to get started without investing a lot of money. The biggest thing I will tell you is when you're starting to compete, make sure you have a recording space that is quiet. Exterior noise, any of that stuff, try to minimize it as much as possible. Walk-in closets are wonderful because clothing is a great sound absorber. You don't want to be in a room that is just bare walls, bare floors, any of that stuff. You want to have them covered so you don't get that lively bounce off the walls that you can hear like a little echo. So those are some things that I could say. When the time comes that you want to upgrade, there are a whole slew of things you can do. And on any of those, if you want, I mean, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to send you a list of things. They can go from relatively moderate budget to ridiculously expensive budget. So whatever you feel you want to do in between. And spending more money on a microphone doesn't necessarily make you sound better. It still has to come from you. I mean, I've heard reads that are on okay equipment, but they were still wonderful. So don't rely too much on the equipment. Spend the time and the money to learn how to do this, and then the rest will all kind of fall into place.
Fantastic advice. Well, let's take, if there are a couple of more questions, let's take them before we end.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple of people on here aren't fully familiar with your body of work and your experience. Nick, can you tell people a little bit about your experience in voiceover since you've had such a nice lengthy career?
I have done pretty much anything you can do in voiceover. I've done obviously commercials, promos that you see for programming on TV. I've done audiobooks. I actually just pulled out something the other day. It's a book called The Hall, which is the Hall of Famers, baseball Hall of Famers, with the forward being done by Tom Brokaw. And I've done narration. I've done cartoons. I was in Ninja Turtles. I was in Captain Planet. I was in Smurfs, DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, Winnie the Pooh, on and on. I've done tons of games. I've done, I think, probably 14 or 15 characters for World of Warcraft, and a bunch of other companies as well. I at one point there was a period where I was flown to San Francisco over the course of about three and a half months. They flew me up there 8 times to work for Electronic Arts, and they paid me more than triple scale. They paid plus 10% for my agent, plus per diem, plus expenses, and all I did was bark and growl. I was all of the dogs in the SimCity 3 pet expansion pack. So, hey, it's a living. I'll take it. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Do your bark and growls right now. You know I love them.
Do you want the big dog or the little dog?
You choose.
Okay, big dog. This is the one that, you know, you're going down the back alley. You do not want to hear this around the corner, which is... Or the little dog, you know, the ankle biters. So...
Amazing.
Thank you.
Now, Nick,
I can actually look at my 8th grade algebra teacher and tell him, you know how many times I've used algebra since I was in class? Never. Do you know how many times I barked like a dog that used to send me to the principal's office for doing it in the back of class? More times you could shake a stick at it. So, and I'll chase that stick after you throw it.
So Nick, let me ask you, in your opinion, since you have done so many great different areas of voiceover, how does knowing your unique vocal strengths and branding helped you feel confident across various genres of voiceover and knowing what types of gigs or brands or roles are in the pocket for you?
You know, it really, more than anything, I think just a willingness to jump in and do what it is that is put before us without hesitation. Like anything, you didn't learn to ride a bike the first time you hopped on it. I'm sure roller skating did not, you know, you might have gotten onto that quickly, but it's not a first thing. You have to kind of wobble around a little bit when you get going. Everything when you first start is new and you don't have the confidence. The more you do it, the better you get. The more you dip your foot into the water, you just take classes, get workout groups, find people, like-minded people that you can get together with. And I always tell this to my students. The time we spend together in class is wonderful. It's a great time to learn. Now go practice it. Because one night a week is not, you know, going to build a career. I was involved with a workout group for 5 years after I first started doing voiceover. And we met every Tuesday I was there pretty much every Tuesday for 5 years. It was the biggest growth period in my career. And it was where I gained the greatest amount of confidence, which carried me over all these years. So the more you do it, the better you'll get, the easier it'll feel. If you want something to change, you got to change something. So if you're not doing that now and you're not booking, try doing that. See if it works. I promise you, the more you work at it, the better you will get. But also work with people that know what they're talking about.
I will tell you from our branding class that people at the end of, by the 6th week, they own their reads. So I totally agree with however you can get comfortable with your read and own it. It's very different to stand up in front of a mic and own your read. I mean, that's really advanced.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, too. One of the things that I've noticed over the last few years, since we've been doing so much online, is our groups seem to gel very quickly. And as a group, I always tell them, I said, if it's okay with you, do you guys mind if I send out the class roster so you can get in touch with each other? And the next thing you know, they're putting together workout groups between, you know, classes every week.
And we do have 2 people who got married who met in our class.
We don't guarantee that you'll find a mate, but you know, you never know. So
find your voiceover success and love in our classes.
Yeah, it's a lot. It amazes me because we have so many different people from so many different walks of life that come to us, and everything that you've done in your life, everything you've done in your past is all brought to the fore when you start reading, you know, a piece of copy, all of those life experiences, everything you've ever done. So the more life experience you've had, the more you have to draw upon, which is why oftentimes when people start getting into acting classes and things like that, they realize it's probably the next best thing to actually going into therapy because you So yeah, it's a lot of fun though.
Yeah, and for those who are asking in the chat, I've posted the link to our website for people who want to register a couple of times. I'll do it one more time before we sign off. The Intermediate Advanced Branding and Demo Prep Workshop, for those of you who already have some basic knowledge and training of voiceover and want to keep leveling up your experience, starts upcoming on May 24th. It's going to be on Wednesday evenings. For those of you who are looking to get started in voiceover and want a really great foundational intensive that'll really get you started, that is our core Kickstart voiceover intensive workshop. And that next one starts on September 13th. So you can sign up at www.voiceprintwest.com for either of those and find out more info. And again, I'll put it in the chat again as well.
Nick, thank you so much for sharing. You are so generous all the time.
I've been very, very fortunate.
Yeah,
thank you.
you've been fortunate. I love how you say, what do you say when you're teaching, like something like, it never makes you happier than someone who you've taught is up against you or something?
Oh, I love that. No, one of the things that I enjoy most,
How do you
matter of
say
fact,
that?
Judith, one of our students, I walked into a session and she was there as my reading partner. It's like, that to me is the biggest thrill. When I walk in and somebody that I've had as a student comes in and they've got a job, or and also, hey, if I don't book a job, I just assume it was one of the people I worked with that booked it. And that is part and parcel to what the voiceover community is like. There's tons of work out there. If I didn't get this one, I'll get the next one. It'll be my turn. It's no big deal. But yeah, it's a very supportive and very, very tight community, and they all get along. And there's one or two out there that I just go, I don't know how you got in, but okay.
Yeah.
But the bulk of the people that I've met, I honestly have to say, just some of the nicest, most supportive, genuinely creative people.
I agree. Very supportive community.
Yeah.
Terrific. So everyone here, if you're not part of the voiceover community or already, welcome to it. And I guess that's it, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always, you can do it via, Instagram or any of that stuff. You just, feel free to reach out. If you have questions, I'm here. Trust me, I had a lot of people help me along the way. So, I'd be more than happy to help you out.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Take
you,
care.
Nick.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Amy.